Most of them, we don't think we need one for potato salad, and I don't think we need one for coleslaw, but for the black-eyed pea salad and the peach cobbler, we do have recipes, and we will send those to you for sure. Yeah. Well, it'll be soulful enough, whatever it is, I'm sure.
Question about the movie and the dance. Question about the movie and the dancing. Will people be allowed to start dancing during the movie? Because I've seen this movie, and I think it would be very hard to restrain myself. So okay, all right, don't try.
We'll use the usual methods, Michael.
Actually, the way the tables are going to be set up, they're going to be kind of framing a dance floor. So, and if you dance, you won't be blocking the view of the movie. So, yeah, you can dance during the movie. So, yeah, so thank you for that testimonial there. That's great. Okay, so also, we need wine donations. A couple of you spotted it in the email. Some eagle eyes saw it in this last night's email and brought a couple bottles in. Please bring some wine to the headquarters or to donate so that we don't have to go out and buy a bunch of wine for this. That would be a really, really big help. And you can either drop it off at headquarters on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons between 1 and 4, or you can call me and I'll come and get it. We'll figure it out. But if you got some wine, we'll come and get it and we'll bring it to the event for you. Okay, I think that's probably it. Is any questions on any of that? Any in the chat or in the Zoom?
No, but Jan is willing to make potato salad.
Well, that's good. Okay. Who else? Who else can make stuff for us? Please do that. Okay.
Excuse me, Jim.
Yes.
Bill just suggested someone should bring some Boone's Farm for the Summer of Soul.
I have a Boone's Farm story that I will not repeat. It's pretty sad. Pretty sad. So does everyone, really. Okay, great. Cool. Okay, so Karen is not on the chat. Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to move right along here then. And we just got word of this a couple days ago, but wanted to share it with you because the meeting's coming up Tuesday.
So there's a group of people who want to help make education cheaper for Benzie County residents. And this is an initiative for Northwestern Michigan College. And right now, students from the greater Grand Traverse region and beyond can attend them, but only Grand Traverse County residents get in-district rates. So the cost is, the in-district rate is $122 a contact hour, while others pay $261 per contact hour. Grand Traverse gets the break because it's the only county with a millage that supports college operations. So there are two groups that are working. They know it's a heavy lift, so millages are not popular, sadly, in areas, but there's a group called Advocates for Benzie County, and then there's Best Benzie County, Building Educational Success and Training. They are having a meeting 7 p.m. on September 19th, so that's coming up pretty close, at the Mills Community House to explore the idea. So if you're at all interested, either way, yay, no, whatever, you've got opinions you want to be heard, here's a place to do it. And that's it. Thanks.
Could you repeat the time and place?
Certainly. 7 p.m., September 19th, the Mills Community House. And if you don't know where it is, it's right by one of the 3 traffic lights in Benzie County, I think. So right where M31 and 115 meet. So perfect. Top of the Benzonia Library.
Thank you, Jana. I forgot an announcement earlier. I just want to thank everybody who brought food today. I should do this every month, and I always forget, but thank you. The food today was particularly spectacular. It really was. I mean, I just got a full breakfast out of it, and it's great. So all y'all who aren't here, who are watching on Zoom, you should think about coming next time, because you'll get a pretty nice dose of good breakfast food. And thank you all for for doing that. You know who you are. Thank you. Okay, next up here, Kira's going to talk to us about something we heard about in July, August. So if you could recap that and then what's going on.
Yeah, so I want to recap our situation with the pop-up in Beulah. Some of you may remember that because we talked about it at our last meeting, on August 5th, Beulah had a street sale. And the Benzie Dems had planned a pop-up for that street sale where we would give out information and talk to voters. And we had approval from the organizers of the street sale. But an hour and a half into the event, the village president insisted that we remove any Democratic literature from the pop-up and only do voter registration with no discussion of politics or Democrats or Democratic values, or go home. So our pop-up people dismantled and went home. So we feel very strongly that this was an abridgment of our First Amendment rights to free speech in public forums. And we let the village know that we wanted to correct this going forward, that we didn't want this to happen again, that we asked for a clear ordinance that would be put in place so that in the future, this wouldn't happen. The village would be happy and we would be happy. So the village next asked their lawyer to draw up an event policy. And at the last meeting earlier this week, the lawyer came and talk to the commissioners and anybody who was there about this event policy that she was proposing. So at this point, the village commissioners are in the process of looking over that policy, and they may vote as early as their next meeting to adopt this policy, which the next meeting is October 13th. But several of our members, both attorney and non-attorney members, have been going to these village meetings. We've been clear that we're watching, that we know we have First Amendment rights and we have strong opinions about them, and that we want to make sure we have a good policy in place, not an onerous policy, which is an issue. So our next step will be to determine how we're going to go forward, and we will, of course, be at that next October 13th meeting. So we also are concerned that this could happen in other municipalities, and so hopefully we'll take whatever good thing comes of this, like a good ordinance, and try to institute it in other municipalities. So that's the story. Wanted to keep you up to date.
Just a minute. Yeah.
My name's Rob Bolenberg. I live in Platt Township. And my question is, can we get an email blast as a reminder for that meeting?
Oh,
Would that be
sure.
something?
An
just
email blast for a reminder of that meeting?
Oh, sure, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. He's the blast man.
Having a blast.
Yeah, it'd be great for people to I've been going, I'm not a Beulah resident, but obviously I have an interest in being able to pop up. And so anybody who lives in the village, that would be super great for them to go, but the rest of us can all also be there. Okay.
Okay, great. Elizabeth has a question.
Who was the person that shut it down?
The village president, her name is Jerry Vanderperry. Perry. Yep.
Yeah, that's who it was.
She just came right over and said, go away.
There's a comment from the chat. Sam in the chat said, thank you for standing up for the First Amendment. We have a situation here in Cedar that we aren't allowed in their 4th of July parade. So, this isn't just kind of a one-off instance.
Could I ask a question, please,
Please.
Marcia?
Yeah.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm wondering if you could share the plan that the Beulah lawyer is putting forward for this, because it'd be interesting or not.
Well, this is ongoing. So we have actually a
see.
fabulous group of three or four attorneys and a couple of us who aren't. And we are meeting on Monday. And so it's this in progress. We don't really, I have nothing specific to tell you at this time.
So you don't have a written proposal, or they don't have one, or what?
They do. They have a draft. The village has a draft.
Mhm.
And that we learned of that on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, and on Monday, we will be getting together and determining what our forward steps are regarding their draft proposal.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Kira. Any other questions about?
Is-
Oh, we
Is
got
there
another one
any,
here.
is
Go
there
ahead,
any way that we
Steve?
can
Yes.
get, is there any way that we can get a copy of this draft, to read?
Yes, we do have the draft proposal. And how about if people who are interested in reading it, put their name in the chat or tell me if you're here in the room, and we'll get that out to you.
I think that might have to go in front of a public meeting, but I'm not sure if they propose that for approval. That's something we need to find out.
What was that? You're fine.
I think that proposal might have to go in front of a public meeting if they decide to instigate that. I'm not sure how Beulah works, but I'm thinking that's something we need to find out if that will be something that'll have to be put in front of the public for a public meeting.
Was the meeting, was the initiative, their ordinance, was it formally introduced to the board?
The draft
Yeah, the
was,
draft.
yes.
Uh-huh.
And that is an open meeting, of course. So I'm not sure they did not sound like they needed to do an extra meeting other than their commissioner meeting that is open to whoever wants to come.
Yeah, okay. We will, we're keeping close track of it. We will share the draft with everybody. We don't know what their next step is. Brad, would you know at all? No? We just know that October 10th is their next meeting, 13th, October
Yeah,
13th.
I think what they said was they were going to consider it at the next meeting in October. And, you know, again, the draft is overkill. I mean, it's, you know,
Yeah.
it's, they want you to, 30 to 60 days in advance, you have to file an application, then you have to put up $1 million in insurance coverage. It's, you know, for somebody sponsoring an event like the sidewalk sale, that's what this is really intended for, not somebody that wants to set up a booth and pass out leaflets. I mean, that's
Yeah.
silly. And, you know, anyway, enough of that. There's lots of case law, then we're not on the same page.
Yeah, great. Okay, our goal is to come up with something that's, working with them, come up with something that's very usable, that we could then, as Kira said, take it around the county. And I think, you know, any other county party who wants to use this, because we see this problem a lot of places. Oh, you can't talk here because this is public property and you're partisan. And that's just not true. It's not true. Okay, any other questions about this? This is an important thing. So, and the correct date for the next meeting is October 10th.
That's what it says on the website.
No, you're right.
Yeah, October 10th. Great.
10th.
Great. Okay, great. Okay, next up here, is Jane on the Zoom call? Jane, could you please tell us how the beach cleanup that you helped instigate with Storm Cloud went?
Sorry,
Need to
I was
unmute.
having trouble unmuting for some reason. Hi, everybody. Yes, Storm Cloud Brewery had their second annual Keep Benzie Beautiful Lakeshore Cleanup and a couple of weeks ago, and their goal was to clean up every bit of beach in Benzie County. And so that's private and public spaces areas. They had like 120 people sign up, and we Dems were 16 of those people. So it's awesome. We are all split up through different beaches, and I just think it's a great thing to do. It was fun and a beautiful day. So thank you all for who helped.
Great, and thank you for doing that. That was important to recruit some people and get them over there. This is one of the many ways we try to make a splash, make some noise, let people know we're here, we care, we're working on stuff. We're trying to help the community, we're trying to help you, okay? That's what we do. Cool. All right, next up here, Kim Allen. Where are you, Kim? Oh, she went in the back. Well, it's her turn to talk. She's supposed to come to the front. Okay, well, Mike, why don't you talk in the meantime? Great idea. Great, go ahead. Mike Ross.
Hello, I'm kind of a coordinator for the Benzie Democrats Blue Tigers, which is our community service branch of the party. We do a few different things, including fundraisers for the baby pantry and food drive, honor food bank, and so forth. Also, we do a highway cleanup. And our last Adopt a Highway cleanup for this year is scheduled for Sunday, September 24th at 10:30. And my information for contacting me is in the chat. We are having a hard time getting quite enough people right now, but people are very busy. And so if you have any inclination to walk a mile in my shoes and pick up a little trash along with M115, this is our last one for this year. And again, we're having trouble getting up people, so please. The date is Sunday, September 24th at 10:30, and it's out by Crystal Mountain on N115, but we'll get you the details if you indeed do volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. So if you're on Zoom, please put your name and I want to be a Blue Tiger in the chat with your phone number or your email address, and Mike will get a hold of you, or grab him right here in the room. Okay, next up, we have Kim Allen, who is a party member who we don't see very often, but it's nice to have you here, Kim. Kim is working on, well, I'll let her tell you about it. She's got a petition she'd like maybe you to sign if you can. So go ahead.
I'm Kim, and I work next door at Field Crafts and have for like 22 years. And like you said, I'm a Dem, and now that I'm retired, I have a little bit more time to spend. So I'm here to talk about the good time bill, and there is a senator, and his name is, let me see here. It's Amos down in Lansing, and he has been working on trying to get some good time bills and passed, and they have been presenting these for the last couple of years. They finally have got it presented, and it's going, if we can get the signatures, then we can get it on the ballot for November, for next November probably, for the big election. Basically what good time means is it's sort of an encouragement for people who are incarcerated, that for if they can go 30 days without any mishaps, without misbehavior, getting written up for anything, then they can get time off their sentence. And I think everyone's aware of how expensive it is to keep prisoners incarcerated, to feed them and clothe them. And many of these people that they're trying to get released are still in prison for marijuana. So I think some of this, in Michigan, there's only 6 states in the United States that do not have some form of good time bill. So we are kind of behind the times, and Michigan spends more money on the prison system than anybody else. I do have some brochures to circulate here. You can pass these around. I didn't probably print enough because I just got the information late yesterday afternoon, and I didn't know how many folks we were going to have here. I have printed out some petitions. The ones I have here, now I'm assuming everyone here today is Benzie County, is in Benzie County, which means you would all be eligible to sign this petition. And I do have a couple of these, so anybody who would be interested, I myself have a son who has been incarcerated, and our prison system is, it's horrible, but and everything is a challenge. It's expensive, it's difficult, and like I said, it is a project that is close to my heart. So if you have family members who have been involved with drugs, and there is no rehab in prison, the crazy thing is when they put you out on probation, they drug test you, and when they release you, but there is no drug testing in prison. They don't care if they're on drugs in prison because they are easier to manage when they can get their drugs. So I found that fascinating when everybody says, oh, well, maybe they'll get some help. Well, there's no help. And like I said, my son was fortunate enough that they did get him on a medication. He has to take a shot. If they go and ask for help, there are medications, things there too. And this is what they need. You know, they need treatment. But unfortunately, we just fill up our prisons with this epidemic of drugs that we have out here. So that is my plea this morning, people. So thank you for your time. Thank you, thank you.
I have the petition here and I'll pass it around, but I want to just add two things, having done a lot of petitions. She said you need to be a Benzie County resident. We all know that. And I know you all know this, but I'm going to just reiterate that all this petition does is get the thing on the ballot so people have an option to vote. So whether you agree or don't agree, it doesn't matter. Let's get it on the ballot. One other caveat, you have to print your name clearly because names will be checked against the voter registration. Print and sign your name the way it is on your driver's license and put under street address where you live. No post offices. The petitions are checked against your voting address, which is where you reside. And please put the date of signing in the column, not your birthday.
No. And Kim, I have a question for you. Can people stop by Fieldcraft, find you, and sign it in the office? Can you do that?
Sure. Yes, you can do that.
Okay, so the Fieldcraft office is right next to headquarters. Yep. And it's go right in there and ask for Kim.
Actually, I'll have it right up front, and you can just find it, and you don't even have to, you can just walk in and fill it out, and I'll make it that accessible for you. So thank you.
So anytime Fieldcraft's over. We got a couple questions here.
I just want to know if you have a petition. I just want to know if you have a petition for Manistee County.
I can create one.
Okay.
And I'll submit it for, if you'd like to take one, I can even give you one. Do you live in Manistee County?
That's where our homestead is. That's
Okay,
where we
well, I will
vote.
give you one, and you can, there is a gal, I have a gal's name, and I'll give you her information, and I'll give you a couple of, I ran these off, I'll give you a couple of these to get started.
You know, I'm not going to go get signatures. I can stop by here if you have a Manistee petition up front, and I'll sign it in the Fieldcraft office.
Oh, I'll just, you can sign it today.
Okay.
I'll just make one
Okay.
Manistee today.
Perfect.
Okay, no problem. Or any other counties here today if I can fill in.
Wait a minute, please wait for the microphone, okay? Please wait for the microphone.
Yeah, is this in lieu of actually the legislature doing something about it?
This is like, this
It
is the
is,
legislation.
but I know it's going to be on the ballot. Is that my understanding?
That, if we get
Okay.
enough signatures, we have to
Okay.
get like 500,000
Has the
signatures.
legislature ever attempted this, or is this coming from the legislature?
They're just now pushing this through. They've been trying to get this on legislation, and this Amos O'Neill, he finally has presented it twice this spring.
Okay.
It was presented a year ago in November, and then it laid there, and they wouldn't do anything with it. The Senate wouldn't do anything with it. So now they did hear it, and they approved it where we could, start the ballots
Oh, okay.
to petition to get it on, so we can vote on it next year.
Was there a question from Mary or something? Just a second.
Yeah, Mary wanted to know if we could keep a petition in the office here.
Absolutely. I'll make sure you guys are hooked up with them.
Having been involved with petitions before, there's a section where it says city or township, and where you, and the only people in this county that live in a city are the people that live in the village of Frankfurt.
City of Frankfurt.
City of Frankfurt, excuse me. So everybody else should put their township, just because we've had this issue before of,
Oh, did I fill it out wrong?
no.
No, we're
well,
fine. Okay. We're getting lost into the weeds here,
Yep.
folks. We need to
I
move
just
along.
didn't want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Great. Thanks. Thanks. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're ready to welcome back Kira. All this stage management, isn't this something? Anything else?
Okay. I think we're ready for our main speaker now. We're going to hear from Paul Hendrick of Rust Belt Rising. And in April of this year, several of us went up to the Sault Ste. Marie to the Michigan Democratic Party's Rural Caucus Summit. And that's where I first heard Paul speak. He was such a breath of fresh air, such positive energy, humorous, and committed to winning back our Rust Belt states. He gave me a shot of enthusiasm and optimism, and I think he'll do the same for you. I know that he'll tell us more about his organization, Rust Belt Rising, and what they're doing and how we can support his work. He'll tell us about good messaging in this part of the country. So, Paul, come and talk to us.
Wonderful. Good morning, Kira. Thank you so much for the invitation and your kind words. And everyone, I'm so inspired to see so many people. I mean, the Benzie Dems, this is really outstanding to have this kind of turnout. Year before the presidential year, you all are organizing, you're doing the hard work. You are the tip of the spear of our party. And thank you for all the work you did in, flipping the Michigan houses and reelecting Governor Whitmer, protecting reproductive freedom. It's not always easy. In fact, it's quite hard sometimes in the rural parts of the state. But it really matters, for the whole state, and it matters for building local change. And so I'm just really heartened to see all of you, to be with you, and to know the work that you do. So thank you so much. I really wish I could be in beautiful northern Michigan with you in person on this fall day. That would be ideal. But we got a couple under 2-year-olds in my house, and so it was not possible to make the trip today up north. Though I wish I was with you. So again, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and before I do it, I'm going to put in the chat the link to sign up to get the invites to our free Zoom trainings that we do, and to get Rust Belt Rising's free individual support for your own messaging and your own work, whether you're a candidate, whether you're helping a candidate. But as I'll tell you about, actually, I think you need to make me a co-host for me to share my screen when
we're doing that right now.
Oh, thank you so much. But Rust Belt Rising was founded after the 2016 election, when we saw, our party losing places we used to win and our brand damage, to really understand how we can best connect with voters and win elections and really learn from each other across the Great Lakes states, so that, you know, someone in Western Pennsylvania can benefit from the work you're doing, and maybe you learn something from a Wisconsin campaign or leader, but really to connect us across 6 Great Lakes states, the leaders like you who are doing the change and the transformational work, and that we can draw on research and we can draw on the best campaigns to make our work as effective as possible. And so our fall sessions start in October. The first speaker is going to be Representative Lauren Underwood, who, as you may know, flipped her Illinois congressional district and then has held on to it as it became more rural. Then we have Joey Andrews, who over 3 cycles of organizing flipped his Southwest Michigan House district. Then campaign manager for a Pennsylvania candidate who really activated the youth vote to win a central Pennsylvania district. So we're always bringing you speakers that I think are inspiring and that really give you tools in your toolbox. And like I said, we provide kind of free coaching to help draw out, you know, a candidate, a campaign's authentic message, but drawing on the things we know work and being able to answer questions people have. Hi, Ellie. My 2-year-old saying hello. He just wants to say hello to the Benzie Dems. Thank you, Ellie. Okay, Ellie, go with Mama. To really help you, you know, as you're thinking about different challenges, there are great examples that we can always share with you of how different people have handled this and to organize as effectively as possible. So now, thank you for getting that all set up. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And excellent. Okay. So let me put this up. I'll see you in a little while. You know, young parent life. It's wild. So here we go. And again, ultimately, we want to make sure Democrats are understood as the party of all working people. So that's how we're helping candidates at all levels. These are examples of the kinds of kind of the weekly Zoom sessions that we do. There's, you know, Darren Camilleri talking about how he won his district in Downriver, or the mayor of Grand Rapids, Mayor Bliss, our friend Mandela Barnes in Wisconsin, or Ohio State Senator. These are the kinds of speakers that we bring in. And again, so if you sign up, then you're in the loop with the invites, and you can join when you're, you know, the speakers of interest, the topics of interest, and to be part of this community of practice. So I want to share a few things today to hopefully help anyone, you know, if you're canvassing, if you're, you know, doing phone banks, if you're the candidate, whoever, to help us improve our messaging and our strategies. And so the key place to start is just to really understand that stories and personal experiences are the most important and persuasive and effective thing we can share. There's just a lot of research on this, that someone kind of, you know, maybe center right on the other side of the aisle, they are less likely to believe some facts and figures that you share with them than they are to believe you saying a personal experience, me saying, you know, I worry about sending my daughter to school because of active shooter drills. Like, that's more persuasive on, you know, gun safety than, oh, look at, you know, the data from the countries that have less guns. It's about, it's about personal experiences. And that's what we remember. That's how we get gut level trust. That's how we get authenticity. And we have to keep in mind that, you know, so often we'll be asking someone maybe to go canvass. They say, oh, I need to do more research. I don't think I know enough about the issues. You need to know why you're out there. And if you share that, that is the best thing that we can do, because we're going to connect as neighbors, not as kind of activists or, you know, political people across some of these divides. And particularly when we're like working with candidates, or if you are the candidate, thinking about sharing stories that show a challenge you faced and that show the values that are important to you, the values that led you to action. And what that I mean by that is, you know, it's less important that the candidate was like the head of the local bar association than, you know, how she learned hard work by helping at her father's gas station growing up or something like that. We want stories that show the kind of leader that we want to make sure people understand someone to be. And so it's not about, a resume and a policy list, though those things are really important and we need to know and we want people to run who are substantive. But, if we're helping a candidate, if we are the candidate, doing a website, like we want to put forward their stories. And for you, as someone who might be talking to voters, really take stock in why you are taking action, because purpose causes belief. When I know why you are doing something, I am more likely to follow you. I am more likely to believe the policy issue you're for if I know why you do this. We want to share that. We want to open up ourselves with personal experiences. And, and a lot of times stories, can start with us, ourselves, and then talk about what's happening in the community, and then talk about why we need to take action now. So I got elected to a local school board, and I would talk about how, I found out there were going to be cuts to the school's funding. And so that got me coming out to a meeting. And then I saw that so many other parents are worried about that too. And so I really we need your vote to make sure that our school has the funding it needs. Do you see how that arc of a message that you've probably heard familiar to other, political leaders went from self, me, to us, what's going on in the community, to now, to our vision of what we can achieve together. So, for those that are on Zoom, would love you to just share in the chat. Are there some leader stories that stuck with you that you heard? Or share, what's a story that you might share with a voter that exemplifies why you take action, and would love to, for those that are on Zoom, just to read some of each other's. You don't have to write out the whole story, but it's like, just let us know. It's because I had to deal with going between all these healthcare companies to get my mom the coverage she needed, or I want the environment to be clean and the things that we love about it for my grandkids, or whatever it might be. But I'd love to hear you, personal terms, like what are some of the stories you would share, and if there are any stories you heard from a politician that stuck with you. But I'm going to keep going and talk about how we want to lead with values, and the values that resonate with our audience, and understand that maybe those aren't always like, they're ones that we do share, but maybe they're not always like the default ones we go to when we're talking among fellow Democratic activists. And but the things that might resonate in your community, family, patriotism, American ideals, history, rural way of life. These are things that we want to begin a message with, because if someone agrees with the first thing you say, they're more likely to agree with the second thing you say. And a lot of times as Democrats, we're jumping into that second thing, like, whatever that policy issue is. But we didn't take time just to affirm a value that we share with our audience. So something like, look, I believe people should be paid for their hard work, and their hard work should be respected. You're going to get someone nodding when you say that. And that's why I believe, we need to really raise the wages, around here, or something. I believe that that we need to keep Northern Michigan beautiful for future generations. Someone's going to be nodding along to that, and that's why we need to, pass this clean water ordinance to make sure that our water is protected. Say the value first, because a lot of times the value, it's real, it's relatable, and also to make it more real instead of just the word, think about where your values came from. Where did you learn that value? So something like hard work, like maybe it was from, a parent, maybe it was from your grandparent, maybe it was community, maybe it was, serving the armed forces. Maybe it was, farming, wherever it came from. Maybe it was, being a really involved local parent in the community. A lot of times when you share that, then instead of just like we're just saying the word, the value is more real, and it brings emotion into it. It leads us to action, and it is often a more uplifting start and a uniting, empowering one than a lot of times as liberals, because we are very motivated by the problems, but we can kind of like overwhelm people at first with the problem, and it just feels overwhelming. And it might even, can repel people a little. It's just, oh my God, all right, we're not going to be able to, oh, okay, the planet's warming. I don't know what I can do about this. But we start with, we love, our lakes and our rivers and our land, in northern Michigan. Okay, we're building a bridge, and that's why we need to blah blah blah, because a lot of times the value really reveals the problem we see in society. If we believe hard work should be respected, then it shows a problem. But too many people aren't paid for their hard work to show that respect. So we need to make sure hardworking people can still get ahead in America. We started with a value. Then we said the problem that value is revealing in our reality, and then our vision for what it would look like in our world if that value is really lived. And a common misunderstanding is, I'll say, tell me what a value that resonates with you would be, and people might say like education funding. That's the policy. I want us to start with the value. The value is, no matter who we are, family means everything to us, and that's why we need to make sure our schools are fully funded and can help our kids achieve their dreams. So I started with the value. Can you give me some examples of what values are? Some of a value you would use in maybe talking to a voter, if you want to throw them in the chat, or the audience in person. Just feel free to shout some out. But what are examples of values?
Community safety.
You gotta do it in the
On the
microphone.
microphone?
No one can hear you unless you're on the microphone.
Community safety, personal safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great one. Again, a lot of times as Democrats will jump right into the meat of the policy issue on that, and it's worthwhile to start with. Everyone wants to be safe in our community. And that's why, etc. What are other values?
Diversity.
Yeah, diversity. Yeah, America is about our diversity. We value our diversity. That's a great intro into some of what can be controversial authority issues. But it's like, if we affirm that first, we're calling on people's better angels. We're building a bridge. We're creating a connection, and then we're going to get into what otherwise might make them think you're on the other side of them. Physical and mental health. Yeah, I think that is. We could say, we need to make sure everyone is, healthy, physically and mentally. And that's why we need to increase funding for, mental health centers or, care and capacity on that and whatnot. Barry, were you going to have one?
Yeah, this seems like it might be a little too broad, but also fits for the day and age we're in. How about honesty?
Yeah,
Integrity?
totally. Yes, absolutely. And
Should I
again, and those
talk about it, or is it going to work?
No, I think you should, and especially say, if you're on behalf of a certain candidate, we start with, I think we need honest leaders these days. I think, and even if someone's maybe a little, right of center or something, like, even if they haven't voted for leaders that are honest, they still believe in that value. They think that's an important value. So that's a good intro. Barb, clean water to drink. Well, that is one of the most popular things. Like 100% of people support clean water, even if they vote for some politicians who don't protect it. So that's a great thing to talk about. But I'd even invite you to put a value before that. We want to make sure our children are safe and everyone in our community is safe, or we want to make sure you know, and things we love about our lakes and waters are protected. That's why we need to make sure there's clean water to drink. I mean, I'm doing that kind of for the sake of the exercise. That clean water drink is a perfectly popular thing, universally popular thing to say. But maybe there is a value before it. We want to protect the rural way of life. We love why we live where we live. That's why we need clean water here, something like that. So here are just some examples. Oh, sorry, I went too far. Family, faith, hard work is one that we have found in our research is resonant across communities in the Midwest. Change, opportunity, respect, compassion, rural way of life. These are good things to start a message with. Here, let me give you an example of what I mean. Things like, I believe hard work should still matter in America. Okay, so someone a little more conservative, they like that. They agree with that. So employers should respect people's work by paying them what they deserve. People are working so hard and they shouldn't have to choose between groceries and seeing a doctor. That's a relatable choice. That's why we're focused on good jobs with wages you can support a family with, healthcare you can afford, good education for your kids, and a decent retirement. That's the Democratic agenda right there in that last sentence. But you saw how I started with a unifying value, not something that's judgy, that's overwhelming, that's too negative, that something that's unifying, and then we get to our agenda. And I want to push us to use language that is not wonky, but is very accessible and tells people what policy can do for them. Let them see it, like bring people into it. If I could just say, we want more childcare. I could say, we want to make sure your kids are somewhere where you can trust and that you can afford, or paid family leave. Like, you want to make sure you're there at the most important moments for your family. Let's kind of get to the heart of matters. Let's not talk about the process for how a policy is enacted. Let's talk about what it will allow someone to do. I don't want you worrying about your, the medication that you need. You should be able to get that medication. It's simpler than prescription drug reform. And we want to really center working people as the heroes. Government's not the hero. Government's a supporting player, but it's the people of your community. And we want to lead with the thing people want, not the process for how we get that. Because when a Pillsbury cookie is marketed, they put the cookie on the cover. They don't put the ingredients. As Democrats, we often put the ingredients on the cover. So we need to say, hey, we want to make sure, our schools have all the resources they need, and our roads are smooth, and our retirement's protected. That's things people need. So start with that. Then we talk about it. We know how we can make it happen. But we're not going to start with, hey, we need to raise some taxes and have a blue ribbon commission. And, a lot of times it's all this process. We want to lead with our vision. And just for example, like, instead of environmental regulations, we could be saying, we want to make sure your family's water is clean so they're healthy and our community is clean. Instead of in more insurance plans, it's, we want to keep your child healthy so they can get the care they need. So let's push ourselves to really define what these things are. Let's try to say what we're for, not what we're against. As Democrats, a lot of the time we're letting other people frame the debate, and we're saying, they're saying, oh, Democrats want to defund the police. We're saying, no, we don't want to defund the police, where we could have said, we want to make sure everyone is safe. Something like that. That's our vision. Someone mentioned community safety earlier. They're saying Democrats want to raise taxes. We're saying, well, we want to raise taxes on some people, but no, we should be saying, we want to make sure our schools are fully funded. We want to make sure everyone has the health care they need. So offer the vision of the world we are trying to create, and not letting them frame the debate. We want hope, positive, visions that engage people. We want to draw them in. And we want to talk about local issues and pride. Starting a message with things you love about your area really works well for less political people, for those that are outside of our base, because then people know the reason that you want to, get more funding for schools is because we love our community so much. We want to make sure that our schools have everything they need. And local issues can bring down the temperature a little bit. This bridge everyone knows that we've been wanting to fix. that's not partisan. And I think in areas where, we're it's a challenge to elect Democrats, the more that we localize things, the better, because people are coming out of their partisan tribes. But don't be afraid to name who's doing harm. A lot of times a good message might start with the values, and then say, but we have Republicans in Lansing, like our representative, who's voted to cut the health care that people need, or against raising wages, and that's why we need to XYZ. So don't use passive voice. Don't say, oh, jobs are leaving, or funding was lost. We want to say this person cut the funding. So we want to identify the villain, but we don't want to spend our whole message just talking about the villain. And I'm getting close to my time here, but a key thing I want to make sure people understand is, as you head out there and talk to folks, remember that you can't persuade if you're not persuadable. What I mean by that is, if we are going to move someone from point A to point B, they have to see an openness in us to listen to them. You're not going to become like Republican. I mean, that's not what I mean, but you can learn from anyone. So let's not go out there with this idea that like we have all the truth and we're just going to impart it on people that know nothing. We want to go out there with genuine curiosity to listen, ask questions, and hear. And then people might have a gut level trust of us that opens them to what our experiences are and why you're out there. And a great way to do this is asking follow-up questions, more inquiries. A lot of times it's little canvassing. We think maybe we just ask one question, then we kind of dump these talking points on people. And it's good to know the talking points. We're talking about messaging today. But ask more questions. If they say, what's important to you, the economy, instead of just thinking about your response, in what aspect, or how is that affecting you? How is that affecting your family? Dig into why someone feels the way they feel, summarize their points, acknowledge it. We want to share stories between us, talk as neighbors, have a curiosity, not a judgment, and to understand where they're coming from. Because what we make people feel is more important than what we think, and that's what's effective. People don't like being proven wrong, but if we can encourage them and affirm as they might be looking at something a little differently, we know from social work, from business, from everything, that's the only way to move somebody along. Kind of a international negotiator, Ken Hyatt, kind of helped us with some of this and how they've dealt with different situations. And, the strongest point is not always the most effective one. It's that less threatening personal experience that allow us to create some common ground. So we can ask questions that explore, like, what's the real issue here for this person, or how is something impacting them, or kind of clarifying, understand what they said, summarizing it back. Sorry, what I hear you saying is there, or certainly like planning how they're gonna go vote. And so just know that you can take this out in your what you're bringing to Facebook and social media too. And one of the most effective kinds of content is just like a little selfie video that someone can make when you're talking about what a policy is doing for you, because it doesn't look like a political ad. People will listen to it. It's real. We want to talk to the people we know as well as canvassing some of the people we don't, but relational organizing, using your relationships, asking people individually, hey, can you share this piece of content? Because then we know it'll get to the people that trust them, and thinking about who those are. So I'm at my time. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here so I can take some questions. But thank you again for all you do. And this is my email address. I'll put it in the chat, Paul@Rust.Rising. Would love to help with anyone running. Again, everything we do is free. Here to help Democrats be as effective as possible. And I hope you will sign up to get the invites to our session so you can be part of this community. We can learn from you. We can learn from each other. I thank you so much for what you're doing, for doing it on a Saturday morning. You're really inspiring. So I hope to partner with you in all that you do. So thank you so much. And for however long I got, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, Jana, do you see any questions in the chat, or are there questions here in the room? Okay.
Yeah, I'm Tom. I was just wondering, was already brought up, can we get a copy of all the
Yeah.
things that you were sharing on the screen?
Yes, absolutely. I will share this with Kiara, and she can get out to the group. And also, if you do sign up, you get access to. We have kind of messaging guides for different issues. It's something that if we have more time, we can talk about more. But you can just use what we have in terms of like what are the best ways we know to talk about education, especially right now with some of this culture war stuff. What are the best ways we know to talk about the economy, the environment, really any issue. And so we have kind of a research page that's password protected, with also examples of different, Michigan and other Midwest politicians of effective ways that they communicated on some of this. So, should sign up to get access to that research and those messaging pieces. And I'm thrilled at your interest and happy to share the slides.
Okay, well, we'll look for those. Anybody on chat have a question? Just shout it out. Unmute yourself and shout it out. Yeah, you want to stop sharing your screen, Paul?
Oh, sure, yeah.
That would be helpful.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Great, okay.
There we
Great.
go. Thank you.
Jana?
Go ahead.
Jana?
Mary, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Paul, this was really wonderful. And I'm so grateful. Some of us took a deep canvassing class and we're getting ready to take another one. And this is all part of that piece. And I think it's so important. I think one of the things that you have said, and I'm just kind of reiterating, is acknowledge people where they're at and what their legitimate concerns are. If someone is concerned that they won't have heat, if we do X, if we don't, pipeline, that's a concern. Everybody wants heat. That's not Looney Tunes. If somebody wants to make sure that they are going to have a job, we need to meet people where they're at and not poo-poo them. And also to continue to reassure them of what you said, how you make them feel, of their inherent goodness and their ability to make good decisions. And your struggles with today. We're living in a funny time where people think the government burned up Hawaii, so it is when we are with people, it is that, and I got so much of this from you because you're secure in what you're talking about. We need to get more secure. That's why we're taking classes, Paul. But it's that meeting people where they are and acknowledging their real legitimate day-to-day concerns.
Yeah, Mary, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, and good for you. That's awesome that you've done that deep canvassing. Some what I talked about with persuasion is, it's those same things. It's the belief that like if we're going to move somebody, we're going to have a deeper conversation. If we're going to persuade, and sometimes if you talk to someone and they're just like MAGA all the way and I got Trump flags and whatever, like that's not worth your time, move on. But there are people in your community that are just like less political and have taken in information that isn't true. And I think sometimes our inclination is like to argue or to judge, and I can't begrudge you not to do that, but it won't be effective. Like nothing will come out of that particularly. And so we do want to try to explore like, what is the root issue for them? How are they feeling? And the truth is that there are some things that on our side are true and other people know are false, but we might get at being able for them to hear that if we kind of explore it more. Like, so why do you think they're teaching that in schools? What is that, based on? Like, well, for me, as a parent, like I want to make sure our schools are teaching reading, writing, and math, and the basics of that, but make sure they're fully funded and kids have mental health coverage or something, okay, I agree with that. Or, skills training, or, if we're talking about, the economy, they might be, blaming the government or scapegoating immigrants or something, but we might want to, talk about, make them think about the wealthy, elites and out-of-state corporations that that have caused, different things, and how we're fighting for, working people. And that's what's important to us. And, so we might be able to draw people out of some of the, misinformation they've been inundated with. And yeah, the only way to do that is to really listen. So thank you so much, Mary, for what you do and for affirming what we do.
Oh, thank
How do we deal with the enormous wealth gap? How do we deal with the enormous wealth gap? That's the root of all of our problems. The gap, the huge wealth gap. That's where it all. That's the big problem.
Yeah. Well, that's $1 million question, but a couple thoughts to not go on too long about it. But a lot of times people we need to talk about the economy, but as a Democrat, we want to talk about good wages, good jobs, how families are doing, and that is the economy. But those are the things we want to talk about and make sure working people can get ahead, which is closing the wealth gap. President Biden's done a lot on this. Ultimately, that's what his presidency is based on. That the Recovery Act, creating good jobs, bipartisan infrastructure to create different manufacturing jobs, the Inflation Reduction Act to do that. And so I think just making clear who we're focused on versus who they're focused on. They're focused on trying to ban your freedom, the freedom of reproductive decisions and cut the taxes of the wealthiest so that they don't pay their fair share. We're focused on the things a family needs to get ahead. And the juxtaposition of what they care about versus what we care about is, I think, really important to get across, because we are the party of unions, of working people, of small businesses, of Main Street. And I think talking about those kinds of things, why are we those things? Because we want to close the wealth gap. So I think ultimately we need to elect Democrats. And so that's the best way that we can work on electing Democrats to enact the policies that close the wealth gap.
Thank you, Paul.
It's got to be a lot. We have to change the tax structure in this country because otherwise the wealth gap will never, ever, ever go away.
Yeah, amen. But you all did the work to elect a president who, in the Inflation Reduction Act, did raise taxes on the wealthiest corporations to pay for people's prescription drugs, to take the money out of that working people's pockets. So, let's make sure people know that. And we got to all come together to do it again next year. So you're right, but you're doing the work on that issue. So thank you.
Paul, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I saw that in your bio when we were putting together stuff on you, that you had a project that registered 47,000 people. Could you tell us a little bit about that and how you did that and what your approach was or what the trick was?
Yeah, so what was great is we were working with Michigan Indivisibles, and some of you might be involved with an Indivisible chapter, but we worked with a group that came out of the Beto campaign that had a unique approach, an organization called Register to Vote, that essentially used commercial mail research to find who might share our values demographically, but is not in the voter file. So if they're not in the voter file, we're not talking to them. And they did a mailing to those people with a voter registration application and a motivational flyer. And then our volunteers called those individuals and texted those individuals to let them know, help them through anything they needed to get registered, because they often had moved around, like maybe they were registered somewhere else and they moved. And so it was a really innovative approach and had great results. It's just a reminder of making sure that, we're both talking to the people that, the van tells us in the list that, we need to persuade people that might be persuadable, because there are actual swing voters in America still. And we need to make sure people in the voter file who are registered as Democrats actually vote. Like, that's a key piece for next year, make sure we hold on to the coalition elected by it and get it back out. But then also there are people who might be our voters who aren't yet registered because maybe they moved, they haven't been to, a Secretary of State's office, whatnot. And we want to make sure that people know how easy it is to register and how simple it is, and how, when you say to someone, we know you're a voter, people want to live up to that identity. And then we want to vote plan with them and say, so how are you planning to do it? Or you want to do it by mail, or do you want to do it in person? Do you know where because all this is behavioral science. If people think it through, if they make a plan in their head, they want to live up to it with that person that they spoke about this with. So, so we'll see what we do next year on that kind of thing. But I'm sure you all will be doing important get out the vote work, and it really matters for all those kind of segments that I mentioned that are all essential for, getting the turnout that we need.
That's great, Paul. I think we'll probably want to get back with you and get a little more detail on how you registered those 47,000 people, how you found those names and those addresses and reached them. We won't talk about that now, but that's a very valuable thing. We are certainly talking about registering new people that would support us here in Benzie County, and that's a big part of what we're trying to do now.
Excellent. And well, just quick thought, and there's one advantage we have as Democrats, which is the people aging into the electorate. And so, making sure that we, work with those who, or we, talk with young people and get them registered, because there's going to be, 4 years of people who are not old enough to vote last time that we need to make sure vote this time.
Okay, thank you. Are there more questions? We had an explosion here because a dragonfly buzz bombed one of us.
Okay, good.
We're okay. Everything's all right.
In one of the Zoom boxes, I was like, what happened? Everyone okay?
I would like to, I have a question. Tom, I was wondering, we mentioned all these things that the Biden administration has done as talking points, but unfortunately it rings hollow for a lot of people because it has not really taken effect in their lives or really shown that there is something happening. And I mean, I think we're looking at it, if we don't find a way to somehow explain all that or get people to understand that, it's going to be another one of these, it's the economy stupid things that goes on, because that's what's going on. People are not really seeing the effect of all the things that the Biden administration has done in their pocketbook. Do you have any suggestions as to how we can get that across?
Great question. This is a fundamental challenge for us right now. It's candidly a frustrating thing because Biden's done a lot of good things in the economy, but people are very negative still about it. So that is why I kind of mentioned earlier the who we're fighting for versus who they're fighting for kind of juxtaposition. I think that we're not going to win if we're just like, no, what you're feeling is invalid. Like, we made everything great. Everything's great now. Like, that essentially is not a good message. But if we kind of acknowledge the, look, the last few years has been a challenging time for everyone. But, we have, a Republican Party trying to cut tax cuts, more for the wealthiest and trying to ban, people's freedoms while, we're really making progress with, creating more jobs, with the economy getting better, with prescription drug prices, improving for people so they can get the medication they need. And so I think that, who we care about versus who they care about piece is important. And and just kind of having some empathy but then kind of directing towards progress as opposed to like everything's great. And then realizing that ultimately, as you all proved last year, that reproductive freedom is the most galvanizing issue for our party right now. And that should remain such next year because they will pass a national abortion ban if the Republicans, retake the country. And so I think talking about that really matters too. And don't feel like that's over with because, and when I talked about the importance of values, freedom is a great value to talk about abortion rights, because, hey, Americans believe in freedom. We don't like being told what to do. And that's why that whole issue has flipped so much, that a right being taken away from people. No, we believe in freedom, for a woman to, decide when and whether to grow her family and to make decisions for herself, the hard, most weighty decisions possible, So So talk about those, and then remember also things like protecting Social Security. Like that's an economic issue that we're fighting for that they want to cut, and don't take that issue for granted. That's a popular one. And then and things like funding schools, things like make sure people have the health care they need. Those are economic issues too. And so reminding people because they know that, like they know we're for school funding and Republicans are. So reminding people things like that they do like about us, that they want, I think is an important piece of the economic debate.
Great. Elizabeth has a question. Just a second, or a comment, just a second.
And a question. Well, Tom got my blood pressure rising because that's a talking point you hear on many news shows. Many news shows I turn on and turn off, and you have conversations with a lot of people who repeat the things they hear on the news programs they watch, but don't really have a clue as to the real realities of what you're talking about. They talk in media talk, and I realize this when I'm talking to family members of mine. They don't really talk to enough people to know what they're going through. They base it only on their opinions about everything. So I think what you're talking about is like essential to all of our salvation here is having genuine conversations with one another. And so in relation to that, don't you think it's important not to repeat Republican talking points when you're talking to other people? It's too easy. It happens so easily. We hear the same jargon, the same slogans coming at us, and it's too easy to repeat those things instead of saying, like you're saying, affirm the good things that are happening. We could say that, look at the beginning of Biden's administration, the recovery package that was passed with bipartisan support. That was huge. That was something Trump didn't get done. You have to point things out like that, and that made. I drove to Illinois 2 weeks ago. Everywhere you go, you see new construction for something. New everything everywhere. I visited college campuses. They're renovating. They have new dorms. They have that's all because of the economic windfall that we had in the beginning. Now things got tough, but all of a sudden they just want to dump that all on the Democrats. It always happens. We have to take the blame for all the bad stuff, but I think we have to work really hard not to fall into that that pattern. Thank you.
No, so true. Like an example of that is, look, like we have all felt, pain or frustration, when we go to the grocery store from inflation, right? But we don't want to necessarily just say like, inflation's hurting us, but we might want to say, look, for a family, for an elder, these days, for a long time, costs have been going up. But we see, how some of these corporations have, with greed, have been, using a challenging time as an excuse to raise prices on us. And that's why it's so important that, we've gotten, our economy back going again, that we're, past, prescription drug legislation. And we don't want to go back to the chaos. We don't want to go back to how things were before. We want things to keep getting better. And I think that's part of maybe, a choice that we want to pose to people, because I think when people think about like Trump years were exhausting with that chaos. And I do think, I love the examples you gave. I think the more people can see something, the better. So if you say, hey, we see construction going on all around the region right now, because we've been investing in like working people having good jobs, making things again, jobs that can't be exported, jobs that, in Michigan that are helping us, in our infrastructure. I think that gets people in a better mind frame. So, but amen, the not repeating the talking points, it's so hard, but really urge us to be disciplined and try not to repeat what they said, even if we think we're like defeating that point. Like a voter's still getting confused. The famous example is, if I say, don't think of the elephant, what do you think of? An elephant. So if I say, Democrats aren't soft on crime, what does someone get a mental linkage of? Oh, I wonder if they're soft on crime. Whatever. Like, I'm not saying like we should be hard on crime or something, but just linguistic examples. Just don't repeat the thing they say the thing we're for. It's one of the most important principles here for how we get the truth out. But it really is harder said than done. We'll see something outrageous on Twitter, and then we want to quote tweet it and say, this isn't true. And all you did is share that thing with your followers. So it's like, it's really tough, but we have to be careful about how we're lifting up misinformation.
Okay, we got time for one more question, Paul. Is there one more question somewhere? Okay, I guess we'll call it good then. You've certainly given us very generous with your time.
Come back, Paul.
So thank you.
Oh, anytime. I would love to. Thank you. Anytime. Would love to be with this group again. If you don't mind, if I could take a screenshot picture of just turn off your camera if you don't want to be doing it, but I always like to take a picture with every group I meet. So I'll just do that in 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you all for all you do. Really inspiring. Keep me posted. Here to help, and really want to help any candidate in your area who's running. So sign up, connect me up, and thanks for all you do.
Thank you, Paul. Bye-bye.
Great weekend. Bye.
Yay.
Okay, I think that's about it, unless somebody's got some important community announcement that hasn't been given yet. Okay, well, this meeting is over. Thank you all for coming. We meet again on the third